Okay, so welcome, and glad to be here. My name is Bob Stefanski. I work for the World Meteorological Organization. I'm an agrometeorologist, and William from Purdue and Iowa State, not Wisconsin, and also work on drought issues for WMO. And I'm going to give a quick overview of the Integrated Drought Management Program, IDMP, and some of the work we're doing on drought impact reporting. Let me get into it. So very quickly, I don't think I need to dwell on this. Droughts are the most most complex natural hazards. As we know, slow onset. As I said in the previous one, I think we are getting to some kind of definitions. I think the issue is that we have various different impacts, and that might cause some confusion. But we do have a good idea on, depending on the part of the world and what we're looking at, of where drought begins and ends. It's just that it's a very broad subject. I must have a timer on this, sorry. So how do we go from crisis management to drought risk management? And this is the famous Don Wilhite slide of looking at risk management on the top half and crisis management on the bottom. Again, we need to develop integrated monitoring and drought early warning systems and the associated information delivery systems. That's crucial. We need improved application of seasonal and shorter-term forecasts. Development of preparedness plans is very important in policies at a national level. Adopting mitigation actions, and this is on drought, and this is in contrast to the Framework Convention on Climate Change. Again, we're talking about mitigating the impacts of drought, not reducing greenhouse gases. And then I think, again, going on with number 3, with preparedness plans, is providing an organizational structure and coordination within and between levels of government and stakeholders. I think that's quite crucial. Quick overview on IDMP. We started in 2013 after the high-level meeting on national drought policies. Main partners, of course, are GWP, Global Water Partnership, and back then it was FAO and UNCCD, and those continue to be our strong partners. We have over 47 partners right now. We have a help desk, a community of practice, which I'll talk about, capacity building, and this, I don't view as maybe a training, but information sharing, which is quite needed and quite useful. These are our partners. Again, EOTEC is part of this, as well as FAO, UNCCD, and many others. Yeah, so the follow-up to that meeting in 2013 was the Drought Resilience Conference +10, about a year ago. Wow, it doesn't seem that way. I encourage you, and you will have these slides, to take a look at the QR code with all the conference conclusions and recommendations. And I think, again, for this group, just looking at the, need the integrative, proactive, and prospective drought management to cope with drought, and the cross-sectoral and whole society approaches must be integrated into policies. So those are the key themes that we take away from that conference. So the task at hand, or the issue at hand, on drought impact monitoring. So we have the 3 pillars, and you sort of see them there. Maybe it's a bit small, but pillar 1 is drought monitoring and early warning. Pillar 2 is drought risk and impact assessment. And pillar 3, risk mitigation, preparedness, and response. So looking at pillar 2, again, risk is made up these components of vulnerability, exposure, and hazards. And a lot of the material here, I want to just credit Kelly Smith from the University of Nebraska, the National Drought Mitigation Center. They're one of our main partners on this issue of drought impact reporting. And this is the baseline assessment we developed. We're now developing actually guidelines on this. And I'll ask you later on, if you people are interested to review these new guidelines, to let me know. So again, this publication is there, presents a comprehensive global overview of the current drought impact monitoring practices, and this is what I'll sort of highlight in this talk. Again, not every size fits all, but I think we can learn from each other from the different countries and regions. If I can get the time. So why monitor drought impacts? To have a comprehensive impact and losses in different sectors. Again, a lot of the tasks, a lot of the issues is that, officials tend to underestimate drought impacts. And part of our work, at least on an international level, is trying to convince countries and maintain that interest in developing drought monitoring systems and developing plans so they can be prepared. So that's one of these issues of making sure we can impact and look at those losses. Try to have a ground truth to train the models and to justify mitigation actions. And again, I'll try to connect that later on in this talk. So again, this is from Kelly's presentation, I think the publication, some considerations in finding and using drought impact data. Again, why are you doing it? Is your purpose academic or applied? Who is making the decisions? Governments, NGOs, farmers, stakeholders. Who does the data collection, or how does the data collection fit into a political process? Do they need more data? And if so, what? A key challenge of this drought impact data is that it just doesn't appear into existence. It needs a coordinating agency or organization, a defined purpose, appropriate scale, and sector-relevant collection scheme. And one thing we always ask, does the data already exist? It might be under our noses, but again, this is where collaboration with stakeholder and other agencies is quite important, especially at a national level. So again, there's the paper, again, led by Kelly. There's a link there. I'll put that in the chat as well. So they come up with, this publication comes up with 5 sort of types, if you will, of drought impact and condition data. And I'll give an example of each one. Just quickly, event-driven databases, in situ condition and impact monitoring, could be crowdsourcing as well, citizen science. Media monitoring, so sort of what we call scraping the internet for news items on drought. Number 4, specific systems built for a specific problem. FuseNet, for example, food security is an issue, and also water security monitoring. And then 5 is that these data may show a drought signal, such as crop yield, hospital admissions, or insurance claims as well. So I'll just briefly look at each one of these to give some examples. So the first one, event-driven databases. Give you some examples there. MDAT, I think people know about, the European Drought Impact Database, the US Drought Impact Reporter, and also the Caribbean. WMO runs various regional climate centers, and the Caribbean does a great job at this in that region. So the characteristics of the event-based or event-driven databases, they're typically top-down and centralized. They are they may be used for research, also planning. Sort of the limits of these are staff time, uneven coverage, highlights extremes, and have outcomes rather than antecedents. Again, a lot of this details in the publication. In situ collection and monitoring, again, citizen science and crowdsourcing. Again, some good examples, Czech Republic, Czechia, sorry, Australia, Brazil. Alessandra will talk about it, I hope. Canada, again, the US. And again, these are observations collected from stakeholders, farmers, et cetera, citizen science. It can detect emerging conditions. Limits here, motivating volunteers, recruiting, retaining people, and also some credibility. Is there any bias? And are people motivated for some reason, maybe for insurance, to add in bad drought occurrences for observation? So that's one thing we're aware of. Example from the Czech Republic. Again, it's an online questionnaire. Number 3, media monitoring, again, scraping the news. So again, examples from the US, the European Joint Research Center, Czechia as well. Again, doing keyword searches on the internet, like drought impacts, crop yield damage, etc. Sort of this big data issue, seeing what's out there. Uses, it can be used as a leading indicator. It's a rough first draft of history. Again, still what limitations are still somewhat conceptual, and there's a low signal to noise ratio. Example from the US. Again, I mentioned this, the number 4, again, FuseNet, it's a great example. FAO's Food Security Nutrition Analysis Unit in Somalia and other countries, and sort of a hydrology issue, my dry well in the US state of California. Again, this is monitoring early warning of drought-related outcomes. Drought may be one predictor, but not the sole cause. Again, this is targeting food aid and water issues as well. And then data that might show a drought signal. Again, we're looking at crop yield, insurance claims, disease tracking, tourist visits, for example, energy production, and wildfires. Again, this is an example from an ag risk viewer. So putting it all together, the European Drought Observatory for Resilience and Adaptation, the EDORA project, developed a methodology for assessing these drought risks. And this is described in the European Drought Risk Atlas. There's, again, the link there. This is published in 2023. Yeah, I think the EU publication, again, looking at agriculture, public water supply, energy production, river transport, and ecosystems. So some key questions, sort of the summary slide. Who feels the effects of drought? What regions are most vulnerable? What sectors are the most vulnerable or most critical? And that's what this drought impact data tries to answer. As I mentioned before, we are developing with Kelly and other partners, the Drought Mitigation Center, guidelines on developing a drought impact monitoring. Again, as a UN agency, we provide maybe paths forward. We don't really recommend one system, recognizing everybody's different. Everybody has different resource limitations or capacities. So it's just trying to share information and give people a head start on what they may already be doing or improve what they're doing. Quickly, IDMP, the Integrated Drought Management Program, has a community of practice, happy for people to join. And then the last slide, this is just the website for the IDMP and our emails. I'll put some of this in the chat as we go along. So colleagues, that's what I have, and I'll stick around for any questions. So thank you for your attention, and yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Looks great.
Okay, let's go to talk about our drought monitor here in Brazil. What is our tool? Is a regular and periodical monitoring of a drought situation on a monthly scale in categories and impacts. Is a process that results in, between other actions, a regional monthly map of drought occurrence and severity. Very important to know that it's a drought monitoring tool, not a forecast. It's based on evidences convergence, meteorological, hydrological, and agricultural data, and impacts observation. As Bob told in his presentation, we have here in our drought monitor in situ data collection. I'm going to explain more about this further. Our key concept in our drought monitor is a relative drought, the condition established when the weather conditions in a certain place and a period divert a lot from the average condition that is defined based on available data historical and not necessarily related to the water availability. Here we have the drought categories. These categories are from the US Drought Monitor. Our methodology is from the National Drought Mitigation Center from Nebraska University, and then we brought it to Brazil, and made some adaptations to our reality. Here we have the timeline of our drought monitor. It began in 2014 in a pilot project in the northeast of Brazil. Is the region historically more affected by droughts in our country. In 2017, our agency is the central institution of the drought monitor. And since 2018, we began the expansion for other regions and states of Brazil. In 2024, in January 2024, we had our first map published showing all the states in our drought monitor. Here we have our evolution. From 2014 until 2017, only we had the Northeast region from Brazil. And after that, 2018, 2019, we can see the evolution of our map. And since 2024, we have covered all country. Here we have the agents of our drought monitor. We have the author, that's the people who analyze data and draw the maps drafts. Then we have the validation of these maps from the validator based on evidences. And here enter another agent, the observer, that relate local impacts related to drought to support the validator to drought the final map of that region. And the ANA, our national agency, is the central institution that coordinates the role process, its evolution, and the monthly routine. The program, our drought monitor, became a program since 2020, and then in this program are all the holds from all the partners that we have in our program. Here we have a monthly process that generates the final map, and we have initially a block of 3 blocks of authors that did the first draws of our map. Then there are a lot of meetings with all the states that validate these maps, and then we have the final regional maps, and the central institution join the 3 blocks of maps and then generate the final map. The whole process takes approximately 14 days, and our map is published in the 15th day of the month. I think today we are going to have our map from September. Who does the Brazilian Drought Monitor? Here we have a lot of pictures with trainings, with mobilization of the states, with the support of the making decision. Here we have some of the observers who brings the related impacts in the fields, and we have also trainings presentially and virtually. A decade of challenges and learnings that allow us to walk in a success path, implementing a unified methodology of drought monitoring that today covers all the Brazilian territory and involves more than 60 partners. Here, we try to put all the signs of this institution. It's difficult to put all together here, more than 60 partners. So our drought monitor is not from our agents. We only coordinate this process. This program, this tool is from these more than 60 partners. Here we have our event from celebrating our 10 years last year in Fortaleza, Northeast. Here we have our partners from World Bank, and here we have all of our agents that participate in our drought monitor. Where we are. Now we have a website, and we have also app for Android and iOS, and when we can find all the information, the maps, the historical information, comparatives, executive summary about the information related the last month. We have many kinds of products, sub-products of these maps we can find in this website. How to use our drought monitor to improve, make decisions. So the drought monitor is used as trigger to actions and public policies in Brazil. As an example, our Civil Defense Secretary uses our drought monitor to declare, to recognize emergency situation or public calamity station in municipalities affected by drought. Now we are going to start to support the states of Brazil to elaborate their drought plans, using the trigger the severity categories of the drought monitor to improve the actions and public policies. Another thing that's the use of our drought monitor is, 1 minute, please, is we using the information large scale to declare quantitative scarcity of water resource in hydrographic regions in Brazil. Nowadays, we have two valid declarations, Purus Rivers Basin and Juruá River Basin, both in the north of Brazil, in the Amazonia Basin. So we use this instrument also in our agents to declare this situation of scarcity of water, to help these basins to put in action some actions related to water scarcity. One minute, please. I want to change it. Okay. Our drought monitor map is used to support to structure field observers networks at the states. Today, some states don't have these field observers networks, and we, as the central institution, we are supporting these states to create these networks, because we are going to improve the creation and impact database to improve the drought characterization for each region. Brazil is a very large country, so we need a table of impact database for each region to better show us how the drought is affecting these regions. So we're starting to construct this regional database, not only to generate regional severity tables, but also in the future to construct a drought vulnerability map. Here we have two tables, regional severity table for two regions of Brazil, for north and central-west region and the northeast region. Here we can see that the effects from each category of drought is different from each region. Here we are in Portuguese, the table, but we can face many kinds of differences as the fires. Our north region, the fires are mostly impacting the life of the population. In Northeast, for instance, we have much more impacts related to the water supply for the population. We have a next step to our drought monitor, can go out of Brazilia's boundary. We are starting conversation with the CIFEM for the west of South America, and we We have the same methodology to monitoring the drought, and we expect to talk with all the countries of the South America to try to construct a South America drought monitor. That's it. I'm available to questions afterwards.